find a way.
Andy Hare, I'm so glad you are with me today. I've been watching on social media your short posts, and I could tell right away that this is a guy who truly believes in what he's doing, and he's got these leadership skills that are authentic to who he is. Like you can just sense it immediately. Then I also am really well aware of Sullivan East High School and the kind of there's some magic
Oh, yeah.
going on there. And so I want to talk about all that.
All right. My favorite topic.
I want to talk about what's going on at the East, but also how you've created that, help create that culture.
Yeah.
But first, man, I want to know about you.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, first, thank you for inviting me on. This is what an honor it is to be on Find a Way.
Well,
this is great.
Well, good.
Sat across from you, man. This is awesome. I've been listening to your podcast, and to think that I'm sitting here, that's, man, there's been some awesome people sitting here.
Yeah, but you're an important person. Like, I think we forget, if you look at a community and you think, who's really positioned to make who's positioned to make the biggest difference, right, in people's lives, in the future of a community? I don't know that there's anybody that is more important than the high school principals, because you have such influence over such an important part of it.
Yeah, we do. We get
Community.
We get an amazing responsibility.
Yeah.
And I love that challenge that we do have. I think we lost that along the way, where I don't think schools were as necessary to possess that ability years ago. I really don't. I think it was more in a home, in the church, the community ownership within a neighborhood, and school was part of that. I think now the school is the community, and I truly feel that way at Sullivan East, for example. I mean, you know where we're at, 4180 Weaver Pike. It's not like there's a booming industry that's going up around it. I mean, it's in a rural area.
Yeah, for sure.
We're in the eastern half of Sullivan County, which we make up half the county. And the county portion goes from the national forest into the offset, which you've got to drive 7 miles into Virginia to get to.
Yeah.
All the way out to Boone Lake and the southern part of Rocky Springs. I mean, it takes almost an hour to get from one end to the other. Yeah. But in the middle of all that, you're driving through Johnson City, back into the county, go through Bluff City, you'll hit Bristol, then back into Virginia, and then into the county.
Yeah.
So having that community school, it's very difficult. So the school becomes the community because so many things that I'm sure we'll talk about that's changed in our society.
I've heard that from different educators that I've talked to. Like the additional responsibility that they have now that they didn't have 10 years ago. Other exactly what you were saying, like other parts of our communities and institutions provided those roles. And now it's like so much is on teachers and the school.
And I think we often say, well, that's not our responsibility. Shouldn't have to do that. Well, that's kind of how we approach it at East. We look at it and say, well, it's okay. That's the hand we're dealt.
You just embrace it.
We're glad we have this opportunity. Yeah. We are, we operate as the social services for that section of the county. And not necessarily we provide those services, but we connect people to whatever service they need, whatever it may be, from mental health to legal advice. We don't provide that, obviously, but we do know people that can. Yeah. We do provide that resource if need be, and we welcome that.
I don't think the general public fully appreciates that change in culture, like how much teachers perceive themselves to be responsible for. And so it's transportation. Like I hear like transportation's a problem for students. So teachers fill that role.
And again, that shows, and I'm not making this about one side versus another, but these are little things that people don't think about. But transportation, it's not a little thing, but it is something that people don't think about. You take a child who lives in the eastern portion of Sullivan County, they have late practice. If their parent can't get them, somebody's got to take them home. Yeah. However, I taught in a city system. They had late practice. Well, there was the public bus that was
Yep.
going to come by.
There's options.
There was infrastructure in place there that made things a lot easier for them to get here and there.
Yeah.
You just look at the
It's
adversity we have to go in the rural areas because there's the social services aren't there. There's no parks and recs. There's no YMCAs. There's no public transportations. You look at the headquarters for most of your nonprofits. They're always in a city system or a city organization, a municipality. If you're in the county, you're stuck. And so we get to serve as that buffer. Now, all those organizations do a great job of working with us, but a lot of times we're going to be that middleman to help provide that for those children.
It's definitely a different challenges. The city systems have different challenges, but it's unique.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm not saying one's better than the other. I just say that there are differences.
And then you also, being in the county, there's typically less funding and resources to solve all of those additional problems.
Yeah, the way they fund schools. Yeah, it's and a lot of people don't understand that, which I think Tennessee does it in an odd way, where you can have, like in Sullivan County, it's not just you're paying your property tax in Sullivan County for the county tax, but also you pay a city tax.
Mm-hmm.
So if you live in Kingsport, Bristol, and part of Johnson City, you're also paying a school tax there as well.
Yeah.
So those city systems get the county tax plus the city tax.
Right.
So they get more of the funding.
Yeah.
A lot of states don't do that.
Yeah.
And Tennessee doesn't have to if you had a municipal government, which is arguably a smart thing to do. Financially, it is, but that's a lot of school systems giving up power.
Yeah.
I don't think people want to do that. But like, take, for example, if I need a new dollar in Sullivan County, it's actually going to cost about $2.10 to get that new dollar because you have to share with the cities. And so you have the majority of the population lives in either Johnson, Kingsport, or Bristol, and they all are part of Sullivan County.
It's a math problem for sure.
Yeah.
The thing that I can tell in the short amount of time that I'm with you is you're not a person that focuses on the problems.
Oh no, we got to make it work.
You have really leaned in to your community and come up with solutions.
Yes.
And sometimes the best solutions aren't the ones that you need money for.
Right.
And I think it forces you to be creative, and sometimes those creative answers lead to magical results.
It does.
And that's what I want to talk about today.
Yeah.
But at first I want to talk about your story. So where does the Andy Hare story begin?
Well, Route 2, Box 305B, Piney Flats, Tennessee.
Before 911 addresses,
those addresses,
I was on Route 3.
See? I was fortunate to grow up in a very beautiful part of the country, right just below Mary Hughes, 0.9 miles from Mary Hughes School.
In the school district that you're now the principal of.
That's correct, yeah. The house I grew up in was used to be a granary, and my dad framed it up and made it into our house. He was a very creative man. He was a teacher, but he always had a bunch of side hustles because when he first started teaching, he was making $6,000 a year. So they weren't making very much. Of course, it was a long time ago, but it's still $6,000 a year has never been a lot of money.
Yeah.
But he was resourceful. I never knew that we weren't making much money. And that I was growing up in a barn. I didn't realize that. I had great parents, Frank and Kathy Hare, some of the greatest humans on earth. I have an older brother and sister. Krista and Hank are just, heroes of mine. And my dad, like I said, was a teacher, and he always told us, whatever you do, I don't care what you do.
Yeah.
Don't make sure it's legal, but go and do any career you want. Just don't go into education. Well, we all three did. And so there you go. He says, that lets you know how well my children listen to me. But I was the youngest of the three, and they were all very active. They were wonderful athletes.
Yeah.
And not that athletics drove us. It was a vehicle. Athletics never was going to be what defined us. And my sister had it all. I mean, she was a state champion in the high jump. She went to Middle Tennessee State, ran track there, was the OVC champion in the high jump there, and a member of their team championships in the late 80s, early 90s. My brother was an outstanding basketball player. I mean, they had these accolades, but that never was who they were.
You think that's intentional by your parents?
With my parents, I don't know.
Yeah.
They never my dad almost pushed us away. This is happening. It's happening to me now as a dad. I have three kids. And for some reason, I don't know what happens, but you start knowing everything. Or you're right more than you were wrong. I'm just kidding. My dad would say things, and I'm like, how did you know that? And it would happen. He didn't want us to play.
Huh.
So he did not want me to play football. Did not want me to. He said, you'll end up getting hurt, breaking your back. I don't want you to do that. Dad, I'm going to be fine. Well, I fractured my vertebrae. And playing football, but that's okay. But no, I had that influence. So I grew up at an event. That's all my dad taught and coached.
Right.
My earliest memories are at East High School in the late 70s, 78, 79. Sitting, I can remember where I would sit, and he was coaching girls basketball when it was still 3-on-3. And I remember running on the court when they won the district tournament and grabbing on his leg while he was shaking hands.
Like the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember that.
Yeah.
It was really cool. So I was raised in that environment, but I was raised by people who were always looking to, we're going to take care of their family, but they just were good people.
Yeah.
Just good people. They were taking care of their neighbors. They were going to always make sure that their friends, their families had what they needed.
Yeah.
If somebody reached out and needed something, they provided it. So that was how I was raised. And
when you think back on that, it was bigger. It sounds like it was bigger than your parents, and it was bigger than just your school. Like it was a community. And we're talking about a small, rural Appalachian community.
Yep. My brother and I talk about this often, and that's one of our focuses that is intentional. He's the principal at Bluff City Elementary School, which is one of the feeders to East High. And we really want to push that you're part of something bigger. You are a part of something bigger. It's not just you. You're a part of a community. And this community now, in our day and time, back then it was well-defined geographic area. Now, with social media, with technology, our community is global now. I mean, I was talking to a former student from Spain yesterday on FaceTime, like we're talking right now. I mean, it was just as normal as anything. So our community's really widened. So I like taking those values that I learned and try to apply them now in this day and time. And it works. It really does. And not just me having a great set of parents and a great brother and sister. I had great role models around me. The teachers, the members of our community, they were so good. And a lot of them are passing away now. They're getting old and dying. And I love to go and hold the family and let them know what they meant to me. Yeah. And let them know what a blessing it was that I got to be inspired by them. Yeah. It's my turn now to do that. Yeah. It's people my age's turn to do that. I think so many of us has forgotten that it's our turn, but it is our turn to be that inspiration and that guide for the future.
And just present, right? Like there's no substitute. Like you can throw money at problems and throw money at kids. I don't know that any of it compares to the feeling that kids have that multiple people actually care about them.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt.
And I think, we talk about, I think a lot of people feel sorry for Appalachia because we don't have the resources and we don't have a lot of things, but I think we have that maybe more than other people.
I agree.
And the smaller community that hasn't lost sense of being a part of tangible community, right? Where multiple people, where that multiple people are looking out for you. It's harder.
Absolutely.
It's harder to feel lonely. It's harder to feel lonely in that environment.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that works for us at East is I can go to the students and say, okay, and I can get my phone out and I'll say, here's your parents. I'll text your dad right now and I'll find out if he allows you to do this or not. Oh man, I do know your dad. We do have that. They know that there's a lot of eyes watching them, not to watch them to get them in trouble, but watching out for them. Yeah. Again, to show and teach them they are part of something bigger. And there's a lot of things and programs we put in to expose them to that, so that and it's exciting to see them because I'm getting older now and I can see them starting to do it themselves. Yeah, that excites me. Yeah, but I was lucky. Take for example in Piney Flats. This went on for 25 years. The Piney Flats Ruatan was really active in every summer they had the Piney Flats Recreation Program.
Mhm.
All the churches contributed the money, and it paid for a couple people, usually teachers, to sit there and supervise summer activities for the month of June into July during the day, so that the kids would have somewhere to go. A different pastor would come by and give a devotion.
Yeah.
We would play wiffle ball, basketball. We had yard darts, and no one ever got stuck. We played games. It was wonderful. Most of it was not organized. It was just us being in the community, from the community together, so that we would be there and look each other in the eye and realize we're all part of this. I loved that. It helped me so much growing up.
You saying that, I mean, I grew up in the other end of the same county, in the Indian Springs area, and it was the Ruatan that organized the football team.
Yeah, that's right.
And the youth sports, and that all happened on the playground of the elementary school.
Yeah.
But you think about like a Ruatan, these organizations you're talking about, there's a lot of people involved. Like these were volunteer organizations with multiple parents involved. This was not just a principal or a coach organizing this. This was truly a village of adults pitching in to create these environments.
Right.
That's harder. That is harder to recreate today, right?
Right, but that's what we're doing.
Okay.
And I don't want to take credit for any of that. I'm part of it.
Yeah.
There's the Junior Patriot Organization. There's the Impact Community Center in Bluff City. These organizations are doing that again. We're getting that back in our community, which is really wonderful.
Has that been intentional? Like, was there a time where you thought through this and like, if we're going to succeed and have a path to success, it's not going to come from the federal money's not coming, state money's not coming.
We've got to do it ourselves. It's up to us.
We've got to figure it out.
I've said this before in the East Zone. It's up to us. I mean, it is. It's just up to us. I don't have the resources. I don't have the infrastructure. But we got to create it. And the people of our community have stepped up and they've created it. It's really exciting to watch what's happening. I've talked about the red, white, and blue wave. It's coming, and it is. It's it's figurative what I mean, but it is. There's hundreds of kids that are part of these youth organizations now that are under the Junior Patriot umbrella, and that organization and those folks that helped create that have done just a Herculean task, and they've made it into a reality. And it's going to benefit the entire community, because not only are the children involved, and it's got parents more active. Because what happened was, you were mentioning Indian Springs Ruatan, which is still active, and Piney Flats Ruatan is still active, but not as active because of people. Yeah. They can't do the things they were doing because they don't have the manpower. Well, we've just found a new way to get access to it. And it's been through this, what we call the Junior Patriot Organization.
So tell me what that looks like. Tell me what that looks like in real life.
Well, for me, as the principal of the high school, it's great because the kids from the time they're in kindergarten are part of they say Patriots, which is what we call it, the K-12 connection. Okay, we want everybody involved in our school system.
So you're talking about kindergartners through fifth grade, into elementary school?
Yeah, actually, I can get up through the seventh grade with some of the age groups, with some of the athletic organizations they're part of. Okay.
And they're all athletic? These are athletic organizations?
But there's also the Impact Community Center in Bluff City, which also hosts a variety of other organizations that bring people in as well, and have all kinds of community events. And like, I'm on the board at the Holston Heritage Museum, which is highlights the history of basically the East Zone of Sullivan County.
So these organizations, are they powered by volunteer parents and
nonprofit organizations tie in with it? Also, like Disabled Veterans of America is there. There's other missionary organizations that have tapped into it. FCA has a headquarters there. It's kind of been like a magnet development to draw people in. Yeah.
And so you've had to get a lot of different stakeholders
Yeah.
to take ownership of this.
Yes, they did. Now, I can't take credit for any of that. That goes to the folks that did it. Chris Lazier and his brothers and that organization
Yeah.
with the Impact Center, they are the ones that had this vision. And what led them to that vision was wanting to give back because of the impact that they had on that people had on them at school and in the community. And so they provided this venue to where they get to give back.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And they work really well with the school system, and it just makes the whole community better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see how it's all come to fruition. And that is what's neat. It's when you have an idea, you talk about things, you have a vision for it, and then, you go from concept to application. It's really cool to watch that happen.
To do some, I mean, this is a common theme on here because it's a small city, and a lot of people are trying to do big things with very few resources in a small city. And but the dreams have to be big. Like the vision has to be big.
Exactly.
And if you've got a big vision, a vision big enough to bring leaders in, right? Then big things can happen.
Well, they can.
But you've got to have the vision. The vision's got to be big enough, and you've got to have leaders. Like you mentioned Chris and what he's doing, which is a whole cool story in and of
it
is.
Yeah, that's
in and of itself.
Fascinating. Yeah.
But he's one leader, but you've got a lot of people that have taken leadership to bring this about.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what's beautiful about it, because we all have the same goal in mind. We want things better for our kids. We want to give them a future that they can be proud of. It's part of what we call the Patriot Way at East High School. One of the T's stands for tradition, where we want to take the work that others have done before us, build on it, and make it better for future generations. That's what we want. And that's something we get to do with this, because we want the future to be even brighter. People did that for me. And so the things that I've benefited from have been because of their sacrifice and their effort. Again, goes back to that common theme that we're all part of something bigger. We want to do work that's going to help and inspire people whose songs have yet to be written. That's the goal. And that's why we want to do what we're doing. And I want the kids that live in the east zone of Sullivan County. This is one reason I wanted to come back here and let them know they can look in the mirror and say, I'm good enough. I can do just as much as anybody else. There's nothing I cannot accomplish. I say it all the time that the world's asking for the best. That's what they're going to get, a Sullivan East graduate. That's not just a cliche. I truly believe that. I said that when I spoke at my own graduation in 1994. I meant it then and I mean it now. And I look at our alumni and what they've went on to accomplish. Great things, amazing things. Some of the things this world's never seen before has happened because of people that went to our school. I want our kids to realize they're part of that, and that they can tap into that resource inside of them. And because of where they're from, the world's their oyster.
Yeah. When I taught at the university, I taught there for 10 years. And I told numerous people, I said, some of our very best students all come from East.
I don't doubt that.
Probably the lowest funded high school in the area. And it was a pattern to me that I recognized back then and appreciated.
Absolutely.
But do you find that kids from East, like you're passionate, I can tell, you're clearly passionate about that theme, that they are not less than kids from the cities.
Correct.
Do you find that one of the challenges with Appalachian rural kids is like a lack of belief in what they can do? Like, is that part of the big challenge, is making them believe they're capable of big things?
I think so. I think part of it goes to generational experiences. If we want to, I don't want to get too off base here and too far in the weeds, but if you look, the reason the people settled here was to be left alone. They wanted to get away from what they were doing, what they were part of, what they were escaping from, and they wanted to come here. The proclamation line of 1763 said nobody's allowed to come over here. Okay, I'm coming over here, and I'm
Oh,
going to start
right.
my own little world here. The
Yeah.
people were so independent that came over here. They started their own government.
Independent streak. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've got that mindset of the people who settled here originally. And I think that over time, that withdrawn perception can make you forget about the world around you.
Mm.
And so we've got to remind them that, you're part of something pretty special here. You can go out and do great things, but there's other things that happen too along the way. I mean, look, the Civil War in Sullivan County, brother versus brother.
Yeah.
I mean, people left here, went and fought all over the Northeast and in the eastern part of the United States, and they came home to nothing. And that does something to you. That messes with your psyche, and especially with the males. When they came home, they were defeated, they got beat.
Yeah.
And, they were injured, they were maimed, whatever, and they come home to nothing. And that can set a terrible downward spiral with a whole generation of people.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of things that happened in areas like this.
And the generational stuff can be even more powerful, I think, for rural places like ours, because it's not a transient population.
No.
It's like I talk to people in Denver, and I say, "Are you from Denver?" It's like, nobody's from Denver.
Right. That's right.
Right. But you talk to somebody from Sullivan County, chances are
We're from here.
They're from here, but also their parents and their grandparents were from here.
Exactly.
And so it's a weakness. I think that's a weakness in some ways, but it's also a strength.
It is. It's a strength into that unity piece. The weakness is if it has went into a downward spiral, getting out of it. And that's where we come into it. It's changing that cycle, breaking that cycle, being that first person from your home, from your community, from your street to get out and go to New York City or go to college or see the Pacific Ocean or realize that there's a world out there. I know that seems kind of small to be able to travel and get away, but that's all it takes sometimes to ignite that spark inside of that person to see their full potential and realize there's a great world out there. Now, what I want is that great world can be right here, in which it is. You don't have to go to New York. You don't have to go to Europe. You don't have to go to Atlanta, whatever, to have opportunity. We can have it right here. I would love to see more of that happen, and I think we can do that through providing great communities, great schools, and have great attitudes here. People take note of that.
What do you find is working? Like, I think kids have a tendency to kind of keep their head down in our culture. And I think part of that is they're surviving the stress of the day-to-day, and they're not walking around with their heads up looking for opportunities and looking.
No, I see what
You
you're
see what I'm
saying. No,
saying?
I do, because I think
Like-
one of the things we do that I think's great, these kids, I say it every year for every group of freshmen coming in, I say it because it's true. This group has more opportunities than any group of students that's ever walked these halls. That's true. Sometimes that's not as good, though, because we are providing, it's just laying it right there on a silver platter. There's no struggle to get to it. And we're like, here, you need to do this. You need to do that.
Making it.
Instead of letting them investigate and find out what they want. I do see that, but man, they're walking into a smorgasbord there, and they can look and pick out whatever they want. So they got every opportunity in the world to succeed. I think the big thing that is negative for them, and again, I don't want to blame one specific area, but they're in a world where they're never private.
Yeah.
They're more alienated than ever before. They're more silent than ever before, but they're never alone. They live in a virtual world. If it's either scrolling on their TikTok, Snapchats, whatever, or they're playing online gaming, they're in a community that's synthetic, and they also get to see things that we never saw. There's very little imagination left for some of these teenagers because they've seen it already. I think that's scary for them. I think it's scary for them to know that, okay, if I go do this, somebody may video me and they may embarrass me for it. So I think that keeps them on the sideline a little bit more too. However, I'm starting to see more of them. That's just who they are now. They accept it. and they know these things may happen, but they also know that cycle goes pretty quick. So there'll be, so if they do something that is embarrassing, well, there'll be something else coming probably the next day that'll replace what they did. I'll say all that, but I want to add this. I see more great things happening now than I've ever seen in my life that kids do. Now, what I mean by that is kids turn in money that they find in the floor, dollar bills. Here, Mr. Hare, I found this in the floor. Mr. Hare, I found these iPods, these AirPods. Mr. Hare, I found this wallet, and all the money's still in it. They have a passion. I know those. There's some students who live down the road from me, and I know that I heard that they had someone die in their family, and I'm really worried about them. What can I do to check on them? How can I help them? I see this empathy that I never saw before.
Empathy.
Mm-hmm. And I say I'm not really worried about the future because I see them and what they're doing. I'm more worried about the present because people like me are in it, and we didn't have those things. They are more intentional, more aware. They are more aware than we realize.
How do you explain? Like, why do you think that is?
I think because there's been a huge initiative, intentional the things that have been presented to them. I know things that we do at East. For example, we do Patriot Pride time. So every 2 weeks, they're going to get a dose of that, which is all based on one of the 7 maxims of the Patriot Way, about just basically being a good person, being a good person and a good citizen.
Yeah.
But just talking to them about these things, about empathy, about integrity, about being optimistic in negative situations, about having passion, those type of things.
What does that look like? Like, what does that time look like?
A variety of ways. We'll have a team of teachers that will present it. We'll have some students that will do it sometimes. Sometimes it's me, and we'll utilize other resources, but just these little small 15, 20-minute, 30-minute lessons and assignments where they work together on these. Like there was a great assignment we did. There were 4 teachers that did it. They all wrote something really tragic about themselves, and no one knew it was. And I would read it, and you had to guess which one it was, which was about. But their shoes were all placed in the middle of the floor. And the point was, you don't know what somebody's went through until you've walked in their shoes. Okay. And you would never dreamed of what they had experienced. So that's where you teach that empathy about, before you want to get too judgmental of somebody, let's look at what they've went through and maybe what's led them to where they're at today. I feel like the earlier we can establish that inside a student, the more productive human they're going to be when they get to become an adult. And a better person. Yeah. I love seeing it, and I love seeing it work. Just knowing who they are. There's other assignments we do where they do self-assessments and things of what color are they. There's like orange, green, yellow, gold. It's fun stuff. A lot of it's fun. They don't realize they're learning. They're just having a good time with it.
And these are high school kids.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it makes a difference.
It makes a huge difference.
Wow.
A huge difference.
Yeah.
We've been doing that for 7 years now, and I want to feel like it's made an impact. We reward kids throughout the year. Every month we recognize our kids for getting caught doing good. So, we call it our epic students of the month.
Yeah.
And I think that's fun and they get to be recognized for things that they're like, what did I do? And we just put on there who recognized them, who nominated them. What did I do, Mr. Hare? What did I do? Just being a good person. When did I do it? Just keep doing it. I don't want them to know specifically what it is because I just want that to be the naturally what they do.
Yeah. But you are in a way naming it, like you're giving it a vocabulary, right? And that's intentional. And the vocabulary can be powerful because it's hard to recognize and value something until you name it.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And it sounds like part of what you're doing with the principles is giving it a name.
Yes. We want to, like, again, intentionality is so important. I think it's so important for everything. It's important if I want to be intentional when I talk to a student and counsel them by listening to them. I want them to be heard. That's intentional. You have to do it. Even though I've got 9,000 things going on and it's waiting on them, I've got to be intentional and listen to them. Let them feel heard and let them know that what they're going through is important to me. We have to do that. So by naming things and having different programs in place, you have to think about that. Like we have STEAM night, that stands for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And actually we call it STREAM now. We threw reading in there. Basically what that is a program where we bring members of the community in showing what we do in school and how it's used in the real world. So we put a name with everything. We have our CTE kindergarten day, our 5th grade fine arts day, whatever it may be, to bring the kids in, expose them to that. So it helps them to understand it too.
One of the themes I'm hearing from you is like you throw in kindergarten with high school. Like
one of our favorite days.
But like it's like you've done this several times in this short conversation. Like you think of the culture as K through 12.
Oh yeah,
you're the principal of the high school, which is one of the hardest jobs in today's civilization on its own. But you're thinking more than the high school. You're a part of the culture of K through 12.
Correct.
Is that unique? Is that unique at East?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I did it at Crockett. It's what I do. I did this when I was principal at David Crockett too. It's where we came up with the K-12 connection. I was really proud of, had a great team there down at David Crockett in Jonesboro. And so a lot of what we were doing at East, we were doing there. We started there with that. And a lot of us, well, everybody basically now that we're a part of that have all moved on into different places. And it is exciting seeing them wherever they're at doing these great things in pieces of what we were doing then. But we've taken what we did there and we've just added to it because we saw it was very effective in bridging those gaps, that kindergarten through 12th grade mindset. And actually, we can go beyond that now because with the Tennessee Promise and with I've got students that will get their associate's degree this year before they graduate high school. It's crazy how the world's changed with that. But yeah, again, the intentional part of this is to let these kids, let their families know they're part of something bigger. Because if we've not looked around, there's a lot of new people here, especially for those of us local Sullivan County folks. We look around down our roads. There's a lot of people that weren't born in Sullivan County.
That's right. Yeah.
And so in this day and time, and this is, again, I don't want to get off into the weeds too much, but with the transfer portal that's allowed in high school now, which scares me to death, with the Education Freedom Act that the state legislature passed, which provides tuition to private schools, we have to sell our schools now. We've got to showcase our schools, our students. Let those people who aren't familiar, you're going to get your good core group because, well, they live there and they were born and raised in that community. But the new folks are moving in and they're shopping.
It never occurred to me to go to a different school.
No,
never was ever came across my radar that I'd even think about that. But yeah, like you're having to fight for your own kids.
Yeah, you do. But I want our community, because our community, especially in the East Zone, is so wide. I mean, you look at Piney Flats.
Yeah, it's geographically expansive. Yeah.
Quite frankly, we're not very convenient for anyone living in Piney Flats to attend.
Yeah, they have to. It is, Because
nobody works along the Weaver Pike. I mean, they got to go. My wife works in Bristol at the hospital, so she's got to go. I mean, it's not even convenient for her. So we've got to make sure these folks know, I mean, this is worth it, and they do. Yeah, and I'm very proud of that.
But it's building something bigger than the high school.
Absolutely,
it's tapping into being a part of a citizen of a community and part of something bigger.
Yeah, without a doubt,
even bigger than K through 12.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, East Sullivan County, the Patriot Nation. Those are terms that we use to describe where we're at. Not that it's Sullivan East High School. Yeah, but it's part of something, like you said, bigger. That's beyond your high school experience.
Yeah. But it's just something else, some other responsibility on educators like yourself in 2025 that you have to do. Like this was not part of the job description of a principal 10 years ago.
I'll be honest, but 90% of what I do is not on my job description list, and that's every principal will sit here and say that as well. And if we are going into this just based on what is then we're in the wrong business. And especially when we hire folks, I don't want people to just want to be teachers. I want people who this is their call. I
Yeah.
want people that they view this isn't just their livelihood, this is their life. I want them to raise their families as part of that, just like my parents did with me, that this was part of my life. Nothing makes me happier, especially in the summers or when we're out of school and the teachers are there working and they bring their children,
Yeah.
their little guys, and they're
Yeah.
running around the school. I love seeing that. I love it because I want them to view school and view that environment in a positive way. But also want to cultivate that environment where people want to be part of that and they want to serve in that role. Because again, I believe this is a line of service, not a job description. It's a way of life, and that's the way we want to view it.
It's more than a transactional thing where you walk in and teach a class and leave. Like doesn't sound like that's the culture.
No, and we don't want it to be that way.
Yeah.
And again, it makes it difficult. That's why I got the best staff in the world because again, where we're at, we're not very close to much. So most of the folks have to live and drive a long way just to get there.
Is it difficult to find people to buy into teachers?
Not at all.
Yeah.
No.
They want that.
They want it. They want it. They're amazing. They're absolutely inspiring and amazing. When I watch them just in the summers, seeing what they're doing to get better. I mean, they're doing externships so they're working in the private sector, doing things just to make themselves a little better at what they do so they can give real world explanations to their students when they're delivering instruction. I mean, who does that? These great teachers is who.
One of the things I hear from educators is the increased amount of bureaucratic responsibility, administrative responsibility, like takes over so much of what they do. And that's not where they get their meaning.
No.
And those things aren't what adds value to kids.
Right.
But it's become more and more a part of teaching. Is that unavoidable, or have you found ways to take some of that away?
We try to take as much as we can to where they don't even know what's happening. As long as they can focus on their job when that door closes behind those four, and they've got those four walls and those students in there, then I've done my job. Let me worry about that. I'll do the best I can, taking as much of that off their plate as I can. But some of it we can't. I mean, it does require all of us. Unfortunately, I don't want
Yeah.
I'm a hare, okay? We take rabbit trails, but we always get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
We may do it this way. Public education in Tennessee is unique because it's the largest portion of the budget, both at the state level, it's the largest portion at the local level, and at the municipal level. So when there's a lot of funds, public funds go into it, people watch. People want to be involved. So often it becomes a political football. And because of that, these type of things happen. A lot of bureaucratic red tape begins. A lot of ideas created by people who do not do this for a living or even understand it come up with it we have to do. Unfunded mandates, those type of things. Once again, there are things that happen we don't think should happen, but we do it and we deal with it and move on. We don't make it our focus because the student is our focus. No matter what, that's going to be the focus. So, that's our goal. We can't get bogged down by all the narrative and all the things that are happening out there. So people can get, especially during election time. It's funny how passionate people get about education when it's an election
for 6
both
months,
locally, state, and at the national level. It's fascinating. You don't hear much about it in between for some reason. It's odd.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for me, I was a county commissioner once, and so I've seen behind a lot of curtains in my life, and so it does get a little frustrating sometimes when you see people fighting over what we do, realizing we're the home team.
Yeah,
we're the good guys here.
Yeah,
and they're making it about a political statement so that they can get a vote. That's troublesome.
Yeah,
I don't like that. I wish more people would in that world would listen to us a little bit more. Well, one thing that hurts, and I'll be quiet on this because I know you don't want to talk politics, but with the Educational Freedom Act that passed, there was a lot of narrative out there about things that were happening in schools that I was hearing about by reading and keeping up by our legislators, in which quite a few of them here voted to pass it. One of the things that hurt the most was I didn't hear them standing up for us, saying all the bad things that they heard were happening in public schools. None of them said, well, that doesn't happen here. That doesn't happen at Sullivan East. That doesn't happen at Tennessee High. That doesn't happen at Westridge. I never heard that.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
that bothered me. It hurt because we lay down our life every day to come in here and do this because we have this passion, this call for it, and we gladly do it.
Yeah.
I just don't want to be viewed as the enemy, and I felt like they did
Mm.
to drive a narrative. So, that's one of the things that I hope that through our efforts, our intentional efforts, that people, they open their eyes and realize, oh my goodness, we are lucky. We do live in a great area because we got
Yeah.
these great schools, and they have created great citizens that have went on and made great communities. Hopefully they'll open their eyes to that.
I'm really glad you said that because that's powerful. That's powerful,
you.
man. Because like the cities and the school systems and the politicians represent, like we're all trying to do the same thing.
Right. Exactly.
And you guys have your hands down in the dirt
Mm-hmm.
doing the most important work. And when people project negativity on you without ever being down in there in the dirt with you,
Mm-hmm.
it's unfair. And it's just wrong on so many levels.
It is.
Like,
It is. And what I encourage people to do, just like we do as a teacher and as a principal, we'll reach out to people just to tell them good news. I love being able to do that. Reach out to your local legislators, your county commissioners, your city council members, and let them know what a good job people are doing. Because the only people that communicate with you, I know, as having served in that role, are people who are mad. And so all they hear are negative. So let them know good things.
Yeah.
I think that will help too. So I think that's one of our responsibilities as good citizens is being active and involved in our local governments.
Yeah.
So that truth can come out.
Well, I think it's another problem of the lack of like volunteer involvement.
Mm-hmm.
Like PTA at one point, you had a lot of the community was in the schools a lot, right? Like they were a part of the fabric of the school, and they saw the work that was being done.
They did, right?
And they're not going to go out here and like say negative things when they see the passion that you have for these kids.
That's right.
But now that I think like people that aren't in the schools are less involved, it's maybe easier.
Well, it is
easier to criticize because you're not there.
Exactly.
You're not involved. You don't have your hands in the dirt with these people.
That's a fact. That is so true. That is so true. I tell you another thing that's true. I always joke about this. You look at PTAs are still pretty big in elementary schools, and it really fades. We've got our own organization called the Patriot PAC. PAC stands for Patriots Alumni Community, and it serves as our version of PTA. It's active, and those ladies and gentlemen do an amazing job. But the elementary schools, man, people are pushing each other over to get there to serve.
Oh,
because little kids are cute.
Oh, right, right, yeah. High school, not so much.
They need it. That's who needs it the most. That's who needs it. So all that trauma and all that negativity, or all that abuse, or whatever a kid may have endured in elementary school, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, they're so resilient." It reveals itself a little later.
Tell me more about that. I want to know more about the kids, because I don't think we get. It's so kids are so guarded.
Yeah,
like we have so few conversations with the actual kids, and so we have these ideas about kids, but they're theories.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I think a lot of them are myths, and we hear a lot of negative things about kids this generation.
It's a shame because like I told you earlier, I see so many good things happen, better things now than I've ever seen in my life.
You mentioned empathy, but tell me more about the superpowers of this generation.
Well, they're more aware. They know what's going on. I had 4 teenagers living with me this year. I had 2 foreign exchange students and my 2 that are still living with me that go to East. So I got to hear it all the time. They're paying attention. Now they're very. I remember when
paying attention to like
what's going on in the world.
Okay. So
they make me aware of things happening nationally and globally. They do keep up with it. Now, that's where me as a parent, I got to step up and making sure, well, what's your source? And teaching them about how to find objective sources. I think that's our role as parents, and it's a lot easier sometimes just to sit back and let them figure it out.
Yeah,
because they're quiet and they keep it to themselves. But having those conversations, they want to talk about it. They really do. They really do. I think what else, we look at what they do as negative with the TikToks and the Snapchats, and I don't understand it at all, but I do it.
Hmm.
And it opens up for a wonderful dialogue and conversation
Huh.
when we sit there and I do these weird little dances or whatever else with my family or students or whatever. I don't get it, but they do. So why don't we go to them so that we can develop that communication? And I tell you what it does. It's not that you become, oh man, you're doing so great. No, because I've done that, it's made me a little more approachable, a little more real. And guess what then they do? They then talk to me. They then confide in me what may be really happening that's caused them to get that blank stare, that's causing them to their grades to drop, that they've been missing school. I now have that relationship with them because now I've got on their level. I think often we look at what they're doing is wrong. They did that with us when we were younger.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad talked about what we listened to, and my gosh, you're watching TV. MTV came on. And,
that was going to ruin us, right?
And when he was a kid, it was the devil's music because they were listening to Elvis Presley and rock and roll and all that stuff. Every generation, we forget that sometimes. I think we also forget what it's like to be a teenager because I believe we press pause on school, on life, on experiences based on our last encounter with that. We don't press play again until we have to deal with it. And you see that often with people when their kid comes to high school, they believe things are like it was when they went there. I met with a parent who's transferring back from another state who actually went to the high school I went to, and they were asking questions, and I'm like, I did stop him. I said, you do realize that was 30 years ago. We've evolved. We've gotten better. Those things aren't happening now. We press pause. We think things are like they used to be, and we do that with a lot of things in life, I believe. And I see that with kids. Because we don't understand it, we think it's bad. We think it's horrible. Maybe we ought to try to understand it. You know?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I've tried to do is I'm constantly trying to learn, trying to grow. And I want the kids to know that too, that learning is not something you just do when you're in high school and college or whatever.
Yeah.
You do it your whole life.
What do you think they're going to be? What do you think this generation is going to be better than us at? You mentioned empathy, the soft skills. Like, what do you think they're going to? What do you think they're going to be better than us at?
I think they're going to be. They're going to be. I think they're going to be more charitable than we ever dreamed.
Oh, really?
Of being. Yeah,
really.
I do. I really, really do. I see it. Look, Helene happens. All right. Now, the east zone of Sullivan County did suffer from that. Most of our problems were because of the downed trees, a lot of power outages, those type of things. But I've lost count of the number of trucks that we sent to Greenville, to the South Washington County, to Irwin, to Johnson County. Where else did we go? We went a lot of places.
Yeah.
Elizabethton. Our kids, our community raised almost $6,400 for the Carter Compassion organization. We played Elizabethton. They didn't get to play, so we played them. We played them in Greenville in the same week. Nobody else had the guts to do that in a cold state. Some people back out, won't ever play them. We played them both in the same week. We raised over $10,000 for those two communities who were decimated by Hurricane Helene. We gave Unicoi County their senior night. Unicoi, that's who I was thinking of. We raised over $1,000 for them, for those kids at Unicoi County High School. Not saying these things for people to think, oh, look at me. No.
Yeah.
To show you what I'm talking about, the charity, the empathy that they have. This is what they wanted to do. The kids wanted to. The number of kids that just showed up. I put the call out there and said, if you want to donate something, we'll be here. And the number of kids that just sat there and like, what can I do to help? What can I do to help? What can I do to help?
And these are their rivals. These are rival high schools.
Yeah.
Could
care less. And we loaded up box truck after box truck, trucks after trucks, station wagons. I don't know if they make station wagons, hatchbacks. Let me rephrase that. And just took stuff all over that area. We went into North Carolina, and that was a whole sight in itself. After seeing what we had done here with the recovery, and I went across the state line. It was like it was a month behind. But it was just fascinating to see that response from our awesome kids and their parents.
Yeah, and I think there's a myth out there that kids are more selfish.
Oh, there is.
And
Yeah.
that's what you're saying is that's not true.
Well, what I want people to do, because they love to demonize kids and what they're doing, especially with phones and devices, I need them to check their own screen time.
Mm-hmm.
Look at it and ask yourself, what would your parents have said to you if they knew you had your head, even if you just spent an hour on your phone? If you stuck your head in a video game or watch TV for an hour straight when you were a kid growing up, your parents probably would have put you to bed without supper.
You've been around high schools for decades now.
Yeah, I'm going into year 27.
And you've seen the changes. Are the things that kids want in life today, are they the same that we wanted in the 90s?
I think so.
Fundamentally the same?
I think so. I do. I really, really do. I think we have let go. We've done this too much as a society because we gave them the device. We gave them the iPad. We gave them whatever it was when they were 2 and 3 years old because it kept them occupied and quiet. And so we lost that ability to have that engagement with them.
Wow.
I have seen that because I'm guilty of it as a parent.
We all are, yeah.
So I'm not judging at all.
Yeah.
I've done it. I'm confessing a sin here. So I think, we've got to clean some of that up. I had a conversation with my son who's almost 22, and I said, hey, let me help you right the wrongs that I did as a parent, where I could get a little better. Things I wish I'd have done when you were 4 or 5 years old. I was helping him with something. And, but it's just little things like that. I think makes us think that they're so disconnected, but they just found it somewhere else. They're going to find that connection. So let us be the one they connect with.
You described the connection that they're finding earlier. You described that as synthetic.
Yeah.
I've never heard that. I've never heard that word, but I really like it.
Well, it's scary too, but look at all the AI. If we don't get, and I'm not saying we should be scared of it. I misquoted myself there. I think we need to learn how to use it efficiently because it is fake. It's just a computer program.
Yeah.
It's not real. But you look at the number of people who are in relationships, fake relationships, was AI. And they know it's AI. That ought to be an eye-opener for all of us, that we need to get back to reality. Because there's nothing better than what you and I are doing right now.
Yeah.
Flesh and blood, looking each other in the eye, seeing facial expressions,
knowing
that this is real.
Yeah.
This falling playing tennis backwards, backpedaling like some tennis coaches would tell you it's not a good thing.
Don't ever backpedal. Don't ever backpedal.
This is real. This is real. This is what life's all about. We got to get back to that. And I think we're doing it.
Do you think there's less? I don't think what we're doing now was unusual when you and I were in high school in the 90s.
Oh, no.
Like I remember so many conversations I would have like this with people. Like this wasn't odd.
No, it wasn't. No,
but
it's just
for
kids every day.
Today, it's not. There's just less of these opportunities, and they're just spending more time in these synthetic, in these synthetic relationships,
dimension or whatever you may call it. Yeah.
And what you're saying is our generation, we as parents have kind of enabled that
unintentionally.
Yeah,
I truly believe it was unintentional.
Hey,
we thought it was cute.
Yeah.
Look there, he knows how to use his phone already. He's 3 years old. Look at him. And that was great.
Yeah.
And then they're quiet. Okay. And then me and my wife can sit here and watch this. We can binge watch a show now. I remember doing that. I did.
Yeah. Guilty as charged.
Yeah. It's fascinating to see all that transpire over time, but doesn't mean it's all bad.
Yeah.
We can get back to it.
But kids have developed some superpowers from that. You've named those.
Oh yeah. Well, the way they edit, the digital edits are amazing. They're beautiful. It's tapped into a creative energy that I never knew existed. I'm trying to get into that.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm nowhere near. My 24-year-old nephew is amazing. What he can do.
Yeah.
With his digital editing. It's scary what he can do. I mean, you watch it and you think, oh my gosh, is this real? There's some really cool things out there. But also we can learn more that way. We can really tap into ways to reach and engage kids, get their attention. There's a lot of positives we can turn this into.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
But then there's the negative parts that they've lost. And it sounds like your your approach to this is it's more than you can do as a high school principal.
Oh, it
This is a
is,
bigger
without a doubt.
problem
It's all of
than
us.
you can solve. It's going to take
Yeah,
a community.
100%. We say that all the time to the students and to the parents. I'll say it's not me versus you or you versus me or me and you versus him or him versus us. It's just us. But if all of us are doing that, it's amazing. One of my favorite things to do, I shouldn't say that. It's going to sound terrible that I like doing this, but when there is a dispute, an argument, disagreement, whatever it may be between students, or they come to me and say, look what they said. They're saying this, they're saying that. I'm like, did they say it or did you hear it? Did you read it? Well, didn't talk to them? No, okay. So I make them sit and face each other. They have to talk to each other. And it's amazing what they can work out.
Tell me what that
Oh, it's beautiful.
looks
No,
like.
they don't like it at first. Oh, they hate it. And I'll be honest, it's not 100% effective. It's probably 95. I dare say if I've done it 100 times, it's 95 times I've not had to deal with it again. But it's very effective to make them.
How long does it take? Is this a 5-minute thing? Is it a 15-minute
Sometimes
thing?
sometimes it's hours.
Hours.
Yeah, because they finally break that, and you can see it happening when that wall finally comes down and it gets real. And then they go into their heart and they start expressing to each other how they felt about the other person and why they're feeling this way now. And it's funny, sometimes it spreads from that. And then they're like, well, Mr. Hare, can we get such and such in here too? And then the next thing you know, you have 4 kids in there, and they're settling out their differences.
Are you there physically for this whole thing?
Yeah, now I'll tell them what I do is, I don't want to give away my secrets here, but what I do is I'll say, now you all do that. I'm just going to be here. I'm going to be working. I need to make some phone calls. I'm going to be answering some emails. I need to write a few things here. So you all just talk. If you need me, just call for me. And I'll literally be like we are across the desk from them, but I'm listening to everything. No, without a doubt. Yeah. Oh no, I'm engaged. Or if sometimes they'll ask, do you mind if you step out for a second? I'm like, sure.
Wow.
I'll step.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm still there though. They don't. But out for safety's sake and things of that nature. But yeah, just teaching them the way we used to handle everything. This is I had a situation. 2 boys got into it.
Yeah.
Made them face each other, sit there, do this, and they looked at each other and said, "Why did we do that?" They said, "I have no idea." And the other one said, "You still coming over this weekend?" Yeah. Yeah. And it just, one of my favorite moments. And I know that seems terrible, but it just showed that, man, it's still there. What we've talked about when we were younger, it's still there. Those pure roots are still there.
Humanity, we as humans have not changed. Like the core in what you're talking about is just it's just a core part of being a human, right? And how you resolve a healthy way to resolve a conflict is the same in 2025 as it was in 1993.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
What's interesting to me is that you have to manufacture.
You do.
You have to manufacture that environment in 2025.
And that's okay.
Because I remember us doing that on our own.
Oh, yeah.
Like we would get in a fight and then we would face to face, we would work it out in the neighborhood.
Yep.
That space doesn't exist today. And you as a high school principal have to manufacture that space.
You have to think about that. You have to be intentional with it. I know I've used that word a lot, but it's the truth. You mentioned one thing that I've said, I see kids being more charitable, more empathetic. I think the extremes are greater than ever before. Extremely charitable, extremely empathetic. But there is a dark side to all this, and I've also seen we have to worry about things that you and I didn't have to worry about when we were in school. The suicide rate is ridiculous. It's the number one killer of kids between 10 and 18. If you remove all the accidents, car wrecks and things like that, different accidents at home, it's suicide. Now, there's always been suicide, but the number is astronomical now. I think that needing to feel heard, be part of something, embrace being part of that community, the loneliness is so real. So the extremes are just incredible. School violence. I mean, you've got to
Yeah.
worry about it now. After Columbine happened, I
Yeah.
mean, that's big. It happened before. We just rarely knew about it.
Yeah.
But no, those are things you think about now. So I
So-
have to worry about these two, that extreme there, but then I have the other extreme on the other end of all this goodness
Mm,
that gives me the hope
mm.
to keep striving, to keep trying to make things better.
It's been one of a constant theme in this podcast, like how lonely people are
Mm-hmm.
in the modern day, and you see that with kids. That's not another myth.
Oh, no, it's not. No. And I think that's our job, and especially in the education world. Anybody out there listening that wants to be an educator, that's something you've got to take into it. It's more than just the subject you're teaching or the sport you're coaching. You are teaching and coaching kids. You're teaching and coaching students, whatever age group they are. So that means you've got to be there for them. You've got to listen to them. You've got to let them be heard. But also, they want the guidance. They want the direction. They want that. But they also, more than anything, they want to be heard and know they're safe and appreciated. And I love it when that gets to happen.
Huh.
It's beautiful. And I'm so excited to say that we get to do that a lot.
Yeah.
We're so fortunate in Northeast Tennessee. If you're looking to move somewhere, this is where you need to come, because you're not going to find a bad school in this area. I personally think Sullivan East is the best because that's where I'm at. And I went here, but every school here has that embracing, that nurturing culture, that your kid's going to be heard, safe, and taken care of.
Yeah.
We're very fortunate to live where we do.
Yeah. Kim Kirk was on, the principal at Tennessee High, and great conversation too.
Oh yeah.
It's like,
we both, and I love that too. With her and John Benton at Elizabeth and George Leo at Westridge, I get to, we talk to each other and lean on one another. And
and it's encouraging for me, because I know how many, I don't know, but I have a sense of all the pressure that is on educators. I mean, you haven't talked about it, but there's political pressure. There's pressure from parents. There's pressure in every direction kind of being projected on you. All these different interests, right? Like
you're right.
Sports parents, and God, the list goes on and on.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't possibly name them all. But then you've got the pressure of state mandates in terms of like test scores.
Oh.
And like from the outside, I'm like, I know these guys have to a certain have this pressure of appeasing these state test scores.
Yeah.
But it is inspiring to me that you haven't talked about that yet.
No.
And you've talked about the important stuff, right? Like the things that actually make a difference in a kid's life.
That's right. Yeah.
And so it
the reason I'm not is because, it is what it is. I can't control that. I believe in controlling what you can control. And I think there's some things we can control with our being prepared, our delivering instruction. We're standard-based instruction, and we're using formative assessment, seeing if we're learning and growing, utilizing our test scores and our projections and measuring against that. There's all kinds of ways you can do that. But at the end of the day, what I can control is coming into work, giving the kids my best, and having a great attitude, and knowing that I have a chance to be that positive for somebody who needs it that day. That's going to help more than anything. And our attendance rate will be higher. Our academic performance will be higher. Everything will be better if those kids feel happy, safe, and encouraged when they come into the door.
Yeah. But you got to be intentional about that. Create a culture that values that more than the test scores that are being rammed down your throat.
Well, first of all, and I know that I've not mentioned it, but just hear me out for a second. Each school gets a grade, okay? And so that grade is based on your achievement, on how well you scored based on the projection. Oh, not on your projection, but on your the cut score of what it's going to be exceeding expectation or proficient, okay? And then you're going to get measured on your growth, on how much you did based on a projection that based on a proprietary algorithm that says you should score this based on previous performances Okay, you're going to have that. And then you're going to be based on your college and career readiness. So basically, if you scored a 21 or higher on your ACT score, or if you did these other things that the state has said, you got to do 4 of these, and that'll mean you're ready graduate status. And you're going to be measured. So the point is, you got all these academic things. Our funding's based on CTE. TISA is what it's called. So being a CTE completer. All right. So if I finished the 4th level of CTE program, I'm going to get an extra $5,000 per pupil. So those are kind of contradictory, what we're getting evaluated on versus how we're getting funded. Then, you've seen these U.S. News and World Reports and all these great schools and all those. Those are all based on your AP numbers and your achievement scores. So I could talk about this for the next 3 hours. I'm not going to, because I know everybody will turn the radio off.
Yeah.
But the point is, we're getting pulled in so many different directions when it comes to that. Why waste your time going in circles when the most important thing are those kids right in front of you? That's why it's important. Yes, I will do my due diligence with the highest level of fidelity. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to pick that over the needs of a student. So that's what's most important to me in a school. That's what, and again, people making the decisions for us in this on the accountability measures, which I'm not against being held accountable, but there are people that don't know. They've never been in the dirt with us.
Right. And the problem is none of those measurements measure the things that we've talked about for an hour that really matter. Right?
You're exactly right.
It's almost like you're disincentivized to create these spaces that really make the difference.
Well, it's worth the sacrifice to me. And if that's not what they want, I work I work for people too, and they could let somebody else do that. But that's my philosophy, my belief, and that's what we're going to do.
If those mandates from the state, federal level were removed tomorrow, how much better could the school be?
I think that there would be this huge sigh of relief that finally we could be we could be trusted to do our job again. The teachers, I think, would feel that way. I think my job is going to be about the same no matter what. But I think it's going to really help our educators take a huge pressure release off the pressure relief valve. I think would really like, oh, thank goodness, because they have passions too. That they want to teach. Like if I was a social studies teacher, I loved the revolution. I loved learning about the revolution. That's not even in the standards in high school. They don't even start teaching the standards until 1877 and beyond. That limits. Shout out to Alan Aubrey, teaches at Sullivan East, is a literal Civil War scholar. He's brilliant. He's written books on it. But his expertise areas doesn't help with the EOCs now.
Yeah. And I taught history at the university, and I have kids coming 20 years later, and they don't remember the 90% of it. They don't remember 98% of it. What they remember is the 2% that I was most passionate about.
Yes.
And they remember that 20 years later, and they will come up to me and reference a lecture from 20 years ago. But it wasn't.
And you don't remember it, probably.
Well, it was, no, I do remember because I was passionate about that.
Yeah.
And like what I'm getting at is like, that's what makes a difference.
Yeah.
Right? Is a teacher's passion. I don't know that it matters what it is when you're 17, because you're not going to remember.
No.
You're not going to, it's not, it's the passion. It's like the process.
Yes. The authenticity. They see that.
It.
Oh, my stars, they see that. It's like blood in the water for a shark. They can sense it. They know when we're being fake. They know when we're real. They really do.
Don't you think that's a superpower this generation has? Like they can sniff out a fraud from 100 miles away.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think so. And hopefully that'll
I think we were
help them.
I think we were probably naive compared to this generation.
Yeah.
Like snake oil salesmen could have sold us quite a bit back in the 90s.
I'm embarrassed to say this, but I paid for somebody's boat and their house payment in Los Angeles because I saw something. I'm like, well, yeah, I'll just give them this, and somebody stole my identity, and I got this bill for this, this boat, and I'm like, oh no.
But man, on the flip side, if you're authentic and you're real, like they notice.
They sure do,
and you can make an impact.
Yeah. We're very blessed. I'm very thankful, and I live in the best community ever. I work at the greatest school ever with the best students, best teachers, and greatest parents and members of the community that a person could ask for. And it's because of that I say I can't hide my Patriot pride. People hear me say that all the time, but that is real because of what they do for me. And the least I could do is give them my all. Yeah.
Well, you're doing that. Like,
thank you.
It's truly inspiring.
Oh, thank you.
Like to hear your passion for it, but like that you haven't let all this noise distract from what's important, and
right,
like those things that are important that truly make a difference in these kids, and making them feel like part of something bigger than the four walls that they see.
Yeah. They are. That's how important they are.
Yeah.
And they have that power to do that for people also.
Yeah.
That's why I love this last few weeks. It's been camp week. And we've had close to 800 little kids come through the school for the last 3 weeks. And they're heroes of those students. They're coaches, or counselors, whatever you want to call them. I still remember them. Oh, yeah. I mean, I would have walked on fire for those were boys, but to me, they were men, you know. But yeah, it is so cool to see that, and see that excitement, that joy in those little kids' eyes, looking up at them, and they think, "Oh my stars, that's my hero," and they can't wait. I know they think about it, and they come to our games later in the year, and they hear the music playing and the lights and the festivities, and they say, "I can't wait to do this one day."
Well, it's the same thing you talked about when you were a kid at the gym with your dad.
Oh, couldn't wait.
Like being a part of that community, just being a part of something bigger than yourself.
Yep.
And the high school kids being able to give back to that.
Yeah.
But it came natural in the 90s, and we have to create it now. And so it's inspiring, man, just to see how you're doing that, how you're leading this. And it's just another example of how just really great things happening here in this community.
Yeah. So it is. We're so blessed to be.
Yeah.
I love it. I am so thankful to get to live here. I've been all over. I've been a lot of places. And it's intentional that I'm here.
Yeah.
I don't want to go anywhere else. And, I'm very blessed and thankful.
Well, thanks for all the incredibly important work you're doing. And thanks for spending the last hour or so with me.
Man, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thanks for find a way, and thank you for getting the word out.
Yeah.
Because right here is a special place, and people need to know about it.
Happy to be a part of that.
Thank you.
Thanks.